No matter how much the annoying vegans try to convince us otherwise, humans love, and always have loved, a good old barbecue. This goes all the way back to the hunter-gatherer days when delicious meat was worshipped but scarce. Yeah, our ancestors could just survive on the fruit and the seeds that the women gathered. If they needed more protein, well, there's literally plenty of fish in the sea, and you could always eat bugs or something to get a balanced diet. But I ask you, is such a life worth living? Humans always crave for the bloody meat of a dead mammal. This is why the strong men in the tribe would risk their lives to go out on a hunt for days on end, despite the terrifying risk of, if you don't kill some poor animal, you'll actually starve. Even after farming began and humans didn't need to hunt for survival anymore, the obsession with eating dead animals never really vanished. The privilege of eating meat became a symbol of power and status, while a skilled hunter showed masculinity. Hell, even today in the 21st century, guys still proudly post selfies with some bloody animal that they shot to death in their Tinder profile to help their chances of breeding. To be fair, our ancestors did raise livestock early on, but our animal buddies were exclusively meant to be continuously milked for, well, milk and eggs, as well as provide labor with brute animalistic strength. It's terribly, terribly inefficient to eat them and kill the goose that laid the golden eggs. But when times get tough, things like logic tend to go out the window, and Betty the cow just seems like she'd make one mean hamburger. Desperate farmers would slaughter and eat their livestock to stave off hunger, but end up completely fucking their harvest the next year. In some parts of the world without eligible animals to eat, humans would eat each other quite frequently if that's what it took to survive. The wise old men from across the ancient world had to figure out, how do we keep our stupid peasants from screwing themselves and the tribe? Several cultures came to the conclusion of, we're going to have to hard-code some rules into our NPCs so they stop trolling our game, explicitly stating what they can and cannot eat. These wise old men eventually became their culture's religious leaders, and these laws would be infused into religious laws so that their ignorant NPCs could easily understand how to not fucking sabotage themselves. Let's set sail for the ancient world! The surprisingly logical origins of dietary restrictions. The four biggest religions in the world are Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Don't worry, we'll cover all of them and Judaism so you can understand why they don't appreciate it when you feed their stupid drunk ass a bacon hamburger. So, the basics. Christianity and Islam are sister religions birthed from the same root, Judaism, and are considered the Abrahamic religions. Islam, of course, is known for completely banning the consumption of pork. The OG religion, Judaism, doubles down and also has a complicated code of edible food with their kosher restrictions. Isn't that weird? Pigs are super easy to keep and cute as hell. They're not picky and they'll happily eat any leftovers you throw at them. They're also super efficient scraps to bacon machines that are way better than most other mammals. Why do so many people hate their guts? Literally. You see, the ancient Jews used to wander around the deserts, and the desolate deserts really couldn't sustain that many people on their harsh land. There was no way for pigs to naturally survive in this environment. They just died of heat stroke, so you gotta build them a nice, cool shelter. But the Jews were struggling to find food for themselves, so they didn't really have the scraps for the insatiable hunger of the pigs. Furthermore, the pigs need to roll around in liquid to lower their body temperature, but liquid isn't exactly easy to find in a desert. So the pigs use what they can and just roll around in filthy sewage. It's just bad business. Pigs consume more precious food than they produce with meat, and they just can't seem to stop spawning plagues because of their filthy habits. This is why the Jews preferred animals like cows or sheep. These animals will happily provide labor, milk, wool, and leather without taking food off your table. I mean, it's not like you're gonna eat grass, right? Best of all, they can survive in a dry climate without killing everybody you know with a plague for the most part. Pigs, on the other hand, are high maintenance, and indeed not many people bothered to raise them. Okay, but why did the Jews banhammer pigs outright? I mean, it seems like common sense and personal incentives are all against pigs. Come on, you know how it is. Bacon's fucking delicious, and people kept raising pigs and causing plagues without a care in the world about efficient use of food or public health. The land of the Jews was actually nice and foresty in the 50th century BC. In fact, the Jews were more than happy to breed pigs and munch on that delicious, non-kosher bacon. But because humans lived in this region since the prehistoric days, They parasitically farmed the life out of the fertile soil for thousands of years. The land was ruined beyond repair, and it became increasingly difficult to sustain pigs in this environment. Desertification was already complete by the time the Old Testament was written. It's really tragic if you think about it. The people knew how delicious their beloved pork was, but they just couldn't get it anymore. However, the rich and powerful bacon lovers relentlessly bred pigs in the few watery or foresty regions left, and even went as far as dumping an incomprehensible amount of resources to force build a pig-friendly environment. Only the most privileged could afford to eat pork, and of course, the vast majority of peasants were jealous. The unequal distribution of pork became an actual issue that caused radical polarization and dangerous resentment in society. It was a ticking time bomb waiting to go off, and the religious leaders intervened and ban-hammered in the name of religion so that everybody, regardless of their status, had to obey. Think about it, some stubborn, spoiled, rich people would be more than delighted to defy a message like, "Please stop, your luxuries are bad for the environment and society," out of spite for those moralizing government assholes. A universal religious policy condemning pigs as unholy was the fairest and most effective way to deal with this problem. Porcophobic Judaism spread to Rome and spawned Christianity, then eventually spread to Arabia to spawn Islam. So, this begs the question, why are Christians allowed to eat pork while the Muslims can't? There's a perfectly logical explanation for this as well. The Roman Empire, birthplace of Christianity, was sprawled across the Mediterranean coastal cities and the European woodlands. This climate had no problem raising pigs. If Christianity insisted, hey, you can't eat your favorite meat anymore because I told you so, despite there not being any clear incentive whatsoever to do so, Christianity would have probably been laughed into history. On the other hand, Islam spawned in the dry Arabian Peninsula, where banning pork was met with a mostly, seems reasonable response. Early Islam went on a blitzkrieg rampage and conquered land from the Romans like Egypt, Northern Africa, and Levant, spreading Islam like wildfire. These conquered territories also had a dry climate similar to the Arabian Peninsula for the most part, and they offered up little resistance against the adoption of Islam, if not welcoming it outright. To be fair, the Iberian Peninsula was conquered by Islam early on, but kept fighting to the death for several centuries and eventually drove Islam out. While there are a lot of reasons for this, Iberian ham is still considered to be one of the most delicious in the world, with dishes like the famous Haman. Telling these people to not eat pork all of a sudden because God doesn't like it, yeah, they're not gonna like that. I'm sure you know how India, specifically the Hindus, ban eating beef. Hinduism is a religion from the Indo-Aryan people and is Buddhism's cousin. Buddhism is a strong believer in all lives matter, not just human lives, and pretty much outlawed the killing of any animal. Similarly, a lot of religions that spawn in India also teach their followers not to kill, so the whole namaste non-violence thing runs pretty deep here. Therefore, Hinduism frowns upon eating meat as well, although they're not as hardcore as the Buddhists. That being said, the cow is considered sacred beyond everything and must be worshipped, never mind slaughtered for food. Unlike the Islam world, where the pig was branded as an unholy animal and forbidden, cows just wander around India like they own the damn place, and in a way, they actually do. Believe it or not, the Indians, or rather the Hindus, didn't always worship and protect cows. The Indian culture starts with the Aryans invading from the north in the 15th century BC. Yup, that kind of Aryan people that got a bad name after World War II. Some of them went west to become Europeans, and some of them went to the southeast to become the northern Indians. Traditionally, the Aryans were pretty much a carnivore warrior people that would herd cows and sheep on horseback. When they first got to India, they would, per their tradition, eat a shit ton of beef. In fact, they would slaughter tens and hundreds of cows every time they did a ritual, so you know they're serious about their meat. The European Aryans modified the laws of Judaism, creating a whole new goddamn religion so they could eat whatever meat they wanted in peace. Okay, but why did the Indian Aryans shy away from meat in general with Buddhism and Hinduism? Just like the Jews and their pigs, there's a perfectly logical, geographical explanation for this as well. Back when the Aryans were starting to settle around the Indus River, the ancient Indus civilization was crumbling into oblivion because of climate change and overfarming, just like the Mesopotamian civilization we discussed earlier. The Aryans, being the warrior tribe that they were, took over as the ruling class and raised their cows on the few precious remaining pastures left. This is how the infamous caste system started. The Aryans created the 4 classes, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, to better control the natives. The comfy class of Brahmin was, obviously, reserved for the Aryans, and only the Aryans had the right and the privilege to slaughter, eat, and sacrifice cows in the traditional rituals. Northern India was going to shit at an increasingly rapid pace as its environment was begging for the sweet release of death. Its population was exploding, the pastures meant for the cows were vanishing, and there was nowhere near enough to go around. The people of India start to get really fucking resentful at the Brahmins for monopolizing the cows and the farmlands. Life was tough, the people were complaining, so a spoiled hippie named Siddhartha Gautama had a big brain moment after seeing the suffering of life and became the Buddha. This is the start of Buddhism. Buddhism claimed that everybody was equal and people shouldn't kill each other or anything at all. Of course, that's real convenient for the Indian people at the bottom with nothing to lose, and so Buddhism rapidly expanded everywhere. The Brahmins were really panicking. If everybody suddenly decided to collectively not respect the caste system, how could they keep living a pleasant life at the top? The cornered Brahmins went with the, if you can't beat them, join them strategy, and spiced up their own religion to capture the hearts of the people. This is how Hinduism started to spread. You see, the original Buddhist teachings were way too complicated. Something, mortal change, suffering, enlightenment. Even ChatGPT couldn't dumb it down enough for my short attention span crippled by TikTok. Hinduism, or clickbait-enhanced Brahmanism, was way easier and significantly more intuitive. Hinduism even claimed that the Buddha from, Buddhism, was actually one of the Hindu gods. The Brahmins successfully hijacked this religious movement with a message of, Buddhism is another type of Hinduism, and became the dominant religion in India after adopting a lot of the Buddhist teachings. Alas, this came at a heavy, heavy price. No more steak. All lives matter in the Hindu teachings, but the cow's life matters most. The cow now became the holiest animal of them all and demanded worship. The Brahmins, ironically, had to change from being the cow butcher class to being the cow protector class. To be fair, there were a lot of good reasons behind not killing the cow and treating it with respect. The Indian farmers would do their absolute best to keep their cows alive, even during the worst droughts and famines. Unlike Europe, not even the wealthiest people in Indian society would dare to jail the sacred cows with fences. This is why most Indian people, yes, even the poor ones, could own a cow and a plot of land to farm, which kept everybody decently satisfied and stabilized society from rebellions. Even in the 21st century, there are so many cow shelters in India, and several states still outlaw the slaughter of cows. For context, India is home to about 1.4 billion people and an unbelievable 300 million cows, and they're not even used for hamburgers. Countries like Brazil or the United States also have a shit ton of cows, but their numbers are nowhere near India's. Most of these cows are for meat or milk and are therefore systematically raised on allocated land to be slaughtered before they turn 3 years old. On the other hand, the Indian people coexist with their cows with minimal interference. The cows just wander around the town streets, raising what they can and living over 10 happy years on average. For many Indians in 2022, the holy cow is still the most valuable property for a poor farmer that provides crucial labor and milk. Humans love meat. Unless you have specific medical conditions or have a strong-rooted ideology that defies your very nature, this is a default value. You see, humans are omnivores, and omnivores have a similar digestive system to carnivores. Meat contains the animal protein that our bodies love to utilize, as well as the calorie-dense fat. Regardless of region or time, meat has always provided the best nutritious bang for its buck. That being said, there are still billions of people on Earth that refuse to eat a particular meat. As I hope you learned from this video, they have surprisingly logical reasons for their behavior stretching thousands of years back. Well, everybody does except for those vegan people. Everybody else, please link this video in a group chat containing a friend with dietary restrictions, and let me know what they have to say for themselves in the comments down below. This has been David Bradford from Knowledge Raiders, and I'll see you again in the next video.